It's morning. It's morning. And welcome back to ABB. AB squared, the alleged, the bored, the bigots. With me today is me, of course, talking back into my little phone here in my car. It is Stardate 2019, towards the end. And now it is time to make videos in the morning. Because apparently, due to the daylight saving shift thingy mabobber, now it's dark when I leave work. And unlike those YouTubers that make trillions of dollars, I actually don't know if anyone makes any money on YouTube for reals. I work for a living. Anyway, what are we talking about today? What shall it be? It's morning, and we have thoughts. So I don't know if I talked about it last time, but I'm huge into conspiracies. And that carries a lot of negative connotations. The main thing that just launched me off is I've always been a seeker of truth. You know, I've wanted to know what it was, and throughout my life I've come up with different parts of it over time that now I've derived it into a formula, you know, objective, observable reality that doesn't change over time. But before then, I was always trying to figure out what it was, what its nature is, how it fits in. Well, so naturally, I sought it in religion. Big mistake, but, you know, it was good. It was a good foundation. Anyway, I was part of this church locally where I lived, as we discussed in previous episodes. And one of the guys who is trying to become a pastor now, he was a conspiracy dude. Mr. Anderson here, he got me turned on to the way scriptures talked about the flat earth. Ooh, flat earth. Weird. But yeah, so that started my kind of conspiracy journey. And so I went into that, started seeking it out in the scriptures. Turns out the whole Bible's a flat earth book. Sorry. And then after that, I realized, hang on, if we've been reading this biblioteca, and it turned out everything in it is flat earth, and pastors know this, but they don't preach it, then they're all preaching gibberish. So then I started questioning all the other realms of theology. And then from there, I went on to other things, like, certain event involving towers, things involving media, propaganda. Now finally I'm onto the subject of history itself. And you know, here on the Bigots channel, I say truth doesn't change over time, right? It should be objective, it should be observable. One thing that's not objective and not observable at all is history. It is completely subjective to whatever you're reading, to whatever people said, to whatever you can kind of collaborate, I don't know, with archaeology. And then even archaeology, it turns out, is all about pushing narratives. Like originally what the large Catholic churches, I've been listening to and by Gnostic Radio lately, and they did something on archaeology. That's probably one they did like 5 years ago. But yeah, it turns out archaeology, it's like the churches went out to go try to prove their Bible's correct, and so they dug up a bunch of stuff, and they're like, hey, this matches. But it just brings, all this stuff brings us back to what is truth. It doesn't even matter. Is it relative? Is it subjective? Is it absolute? Which brings me to my latest conspiracy. Cheese. Now, I was talking with my wife, and it turns out she was saying that shredded cheese, or the cheese that comes prepackaged, they put sawdust in that to keep it from sticking together. And that just ruined my whole life, because I was like, my parents have fed me that stuff for years. They were feeding me sawdust? Sawdust? Oh, really? Which then makes you come back to other things like vaccines. It's like, or cutting off penises, right? The, what was it? Circumcision. That a lot of people do. And it's like, how much do our parents even know or care? Or how blind are we that we just go along with so many things, like eating sawdust and cheese, and all these crazy things, like vaccines, okay. there's a good possibility that they work. There's a good possibility that it's psychosomatic, and it's like, we all just are producing it with our heads. It's a good possibility that it's nonsense. We have no idea. Some people do, some people don't. You vaxxers and you anti-vaxxers, you guys, go ahead and battle it out. Just be civil. But the thing is, it's like, we don't know 99% of what we put into our bodies. Food, vaccines, medicines. We just trust doctors. And it comes back to the same thing with history. It's like, what even do we know in this reality? I mean, I'm over here driving this little car, I don't know how this thing works. I suck at mechanics. Especially nowadays where it's all pretty much electrical. But, yeah, where am I going with this? It's the morning, and I've had my coffee. And yet I'm still not awake. Dun, dun, dun. I guess the point is, I was listening to Jesse Lee Peterson, and I'm just kind of pulling all my thoughts together, especially in the morning. Because when I go to work, I work, but I'm also listening to, like, countless hours of information as well. Oh, that's a cool little squirrel. See a little squirrel? A little squirrel? And it's gone. Let's see. Bloop. What was it saying? Oh yeah, Jesse Lee Peterson. Thoughts? That's probably my first patient. Oh well. You gotta take all your thoughts into captivity. You gotta doubt all your thoughts. And one of the chief thoughts you gotta doubt is history. What you've been taught, your presuppositions. So many people, especially theologians, they argue from presuppositional apologetics, and then they try to use the evidentiary method and historical methods, and it's just all nonsense. You have to take all those things and really question them and see how much of these are objectively true over time. And I'm not just talking theology, I'm talking history that they teach you in school. I was listening to Quantum of Consciousness, right? Because Big Barrow and Benjamin turned me on to it, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And what was he talking about? The Gold Rush. Today, I was listening to his episode on the Gold Rush. And it's like, how much gold was actually taken out of California? How much gold was actually there in California? How much of that narrative was true? Or how much of it was the government pushing a narrative to get people to move from the east into the west to settle it after they took a lot of the land from Mexico? Because that's part of any conquest, is you have to colonize. That's one of the things going on in the wars right now. Is like, we bomb the crap out of all these countries, but no one goes and colonizes anything, so it just turns into nothing. And I think that's an interesting thought. Oh God, that's going to be a difficult patient. That's kind of the main thought. It's are we questioning history? Are we really seeking the answers? Or are we just taking what's presented to us? And I find this happens with family so much. There's so many people who don't think. They just think that their way of either raising their kids or living their life or getting into credit card debt or getting into college debt. College, that's a huge scam. They think all these things are right, but how much of it really is? Anyway, these are the thoughts for the day that I'm going to wake up and go to work and think about. And I might look into Thoth again. Or Hermes, Trismegistus? What's his name? Anyway, have fun. We'll see what I'm talking about tomorrow, now that I'm going to start doing these in the morning instead of the afternoon. So my thoughts are probably going to be a little more scattered. But it's fun, because I'm just talking to you, the people. The people, about random shit. Oh yeah, one other thing. This whole Kanye West thing. People need to stop following it. It's nonsense. It's a trap! But no, like, the religious people are getting all on board, and they're just buying his socks for like $20. And then the worldly people are giving it credit, which is really weird. They're all pushing it, and that's something they don't ever really do with churches or religion. And then Kanye, he's just being Kanye. It's just weird. It doesn't matter whether he is or isn't converted or whatever. We need to stop as humans paying so much attention to celebrity. It doesn't make any sense. The celebrities should be our neighbors, should be our friends. I have a friend who comes over and him and his wife, they cook and they make a pie and they're going through some crazy stuff. But they're cooler than Kanye. That's the message of today. Welcome to AB Squared. If you've stuck with me for this whole thing, this is the distilled version. Be cooler than Kanye. That's the message. All right, go out, seek truth. Everyone needs objective truth, even though they usually only have subjective truth. And so stop thinking your subjective truth is objective truth if it's not really objective. Okay, bye.